What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers go without saying that they have a very deep, very talented, very versatile roster. But their biggest strength is not just the depth that this roster has, but that versatility. Because there is different levels to depth. Like last year, the Lakers were pretty deep on the surface, right? Even before the trade, you had like Patrick Beverly, Kendrick Nunn, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Troy Brown Jr., Patrick Beverly. You had Thomas Bryant, Damian Jones. You had all of these, Dennis Schroeder, right? You had all of these guys that on the surface look like, okay, like this roster is deep. Juan Toscano Anderson, right? Lonnie Walker, who was huge for them, Russell Westbrook, right? This roster was like 10 guys deep, but it was all 6 foot guards, right? It was all just pieces that didn't fit, that couldn't really play defense, that were disappointing and weren't the players that they were previously. Like Patrick Beverly was a huge disappointment. He was literally the worst offensive player for pretty much the entire stretch with the Lakers. And no, I'm not just talking opinion wise, I'm talking literally, right? And then you had Russell Westbrook, who just didn't fit. You had, a surprise in Lonnie Walker, but even he had his, disadvantages. Damian Jones, we were super stoked for him. He was great the previous year, and he was even great after we traded him. But for the Lakers, he was literally unplayable. Thomas Bryant was fantastic on the offensive end, but he was literally the worst defensive center in the league. Again, not an opinion, an actual fact, right? You looked at last year's roster, and you could make the argument they were deep. Right? That was a real conversation when the Lakers got all the guys they did. Juan Toscano Anderson was a huge part with its versatility and stuff, and none of them just worked out. Right? It was like Patrick Beverly. That's the perfect compliment next to LeBron James. And then we do the trade. And even after the trade, it's like, perfect. Lakers are deep. And then you had essentially Mo Bamba, who was injured the entire time and became unplayable, right? You had Malik Beasley, who became unplayable, right? Like it's just like you look at the pieces and it's like, oh, like this guy is good, and none of them turned out to be that way. But you look at this roster, and it's not a bunch of 6 foot, 6'1" guards. It's not a bunch of just almost random pieces thrown together, right? Like, that was kind of the thing last year, right? Like, one of the big talks, and even we talked about it here on this channel, of like, there's got to be a trade coming. Something's got to be coming, right? There has to be something on the horizon, right? Like, they just have too many of like the same players. And too many of like the smaller guards. They got to be positioning to go get a wing or something. And they did. I mean, they ended up getting Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt, but it was tough, right? And this year, the Lakers were able to keep all the good from last year and continue to add to it. But all of the pieces complement. All of the pieces are versatile, right? I mean, we had Patrick Beverly guarding small forwards and power forwards in some cases, right? You had 4 guard lineups, and a lot of people blame Darvin Ham for it. But again, it's like, what was he supposed to play? Our entire roster, like literally half of our roster were like 6 foot guards, and they were all our like best players. So what? Like, what other wings and centers did we have? Like, Damian Jones was unplayable, and Thomas Bryant was the worst defensive center in the league. And it was like, okay, like even if you played Damian Jones and Anthony Davis, you still had nothing but guards, nothing but point guards. Not even like sizable, not a bunch of like 6'5". Like at least D'Lo and Reeves are 6'5". You didn't even have that. They were all like 6'1". I mean, even like Kendrick Nunn was like a complete disappointment, like everybody. And that's the thing about this roster is that you have so much size. And even if we have like the Laker, almost curse, right? It's because like Malik Beasley is probably going to shoot the lights out for the Milwaukee Bucks. But on the Lakers, the guy, he was just such a disappointment. And this was somebody that was really rallying for him and sticking up for him and trying to just hope that he could turn something around, and it just never happened. Right? And it's even if, Gabe Vincent just becomes unplayable, it's okay, he still got D'Lo, he still got Reeves, LeBron could always play point, right? You could always just go make a move, go make a trade, and you'll be good. This roster and the next man up mentality, right? You hear about it all the time. Oh, it's the next man up, it's the next man up. But there are levels to that even, right? To have a guy that's just the 15th guy at the end of the bench that's stepping in and he's basically unplayable, right? There's a big, better example. There's a big difference between a Damian Jones replacing Anthony Davis and a Christian Wood replacing an Anthony Davis, right? There's a big difference between a Juan Toscano Anderson replacing LeBron James and a Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish. You get my point? There's levels to this thing. And that is, to me, the Lakers' biggest asset. This is a roster that LeBron could not play and they can win a game. Anthony Davis could not play and they could win a game. Last year, LeBron was putting up 30 points a game just for us to stay in the games. And we still weren't winning. We were still losing those games. Right? And it's this is a roster where it's AD and LeBron are dealing with some nagging injuries. Hey, don't worry about it, fellas. Sit down, have a drink. D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, Wood, Reddish, Hayes, Vincent, Christie. We got it. Don't worry. We can hold it down. Take the night off. Right? That is what is so beautiful. Because again, there is depth and then there is depth. And the Lakers have depth. Right? Again, there are levels to this thing. You can make an argument for almost every roster, right? Of oh man, we got this guy, and every fandom of every organization all do the same thing, right? You don't think Milwaukee Bucks fans were oh, Malik Beasley, it's over, that's it, we're he's the difference. And for us, we're looking at it as this dude was terrible. He was literally unplayable, provided zero defense and couldn't even find the bottom of the net. Couldn't throw a rock into the ocean. Right? You don't think when the Timberwolves, they go and they get Troy Brown. Oh man, look at it, Troy Brown. He's young, he's a sizable win. Look how good he was for the Lakers last year. And we got Taurean Prince. Right? Every team is looking at their depth chart and trying to make an argument for why their roster is extremely deep. But the Lakers are one of the teams, and maybe the only team in the league, that there is no question. Even if you hate the Lakers, even if you think the Lakers are, the worst team in the league, whatever, there is no denying this roster's depth. Zero. Because you already saw what a Rui, Vando, Reeves, LeBron, AD, and D'Lo could do. Right? They led and were in the conference finals. And then you have a Taurean Prince who's the prototypical 3-and-D, could play basically 2 through 4 and guard 1 through 5. depending on the 5, but we'll call it 1 through 4. Shoots 39% from 3. You got a guy in Cam Reddish who is hyper athletic, can guard 1 through 5 with like a 7'2" wingspan, create his own shot, do everything. Gabe Vincent was just the starting point guard for the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. You have, Jackson Hayes, who is a solid, just great floor running big. Again, not a guy that's going to stand out. Like, yeah, are any of these guys like superstars? No, but they don't need to be. You don't need to have a roster like every team needs to have a Phoenix Suns level roster. Right? The Phoenix Suns are extremely top heavy. What if it doesn't work? They don't have a way to fix it. The Lakers do. Let's say the Lakers throw out a starting 5 and it's just not working. Okay, well, let's just remove these 2 guys from it and put these 2 guys. Oh, now it works. Right? Like, no, but like what is Phoenix going to do? Okay, they could trade Ayton, right? Like maybe they end up getting, a piece or 2 that fixes it. Because they're not going to be able to trade Beal, right? And they're not going to trade Kevin Durant, and they're not going to trade Devin Booker. So Ayton would be the only way to really fix that, if that is a problem. And even if they do trade Ayton, there's no guarantee that's the fix. What if it's the 3 stars that are the problem? What if Beal, Booker, and KD don't work? You're in trouble. Right? Like, and there's no way out. Because again, you can't trade Beal. He literally has a no trade clause. And then you have Devin Booker, you're not going to trade Booker. You're not going to trade Kevin Durant. So what's your option here? Like the Lakers' big 3, they didn't work with Russ, LeBron, and AD. But the Lakers were able to get out of it. They were able to make it the correction and fix it. And it literally led them to the pieces that led them to the Western Conference Finals. And now this year, you have those same pieces and you just added to it. And if D'Lo doesn't work out, right? It's like, okay, well, one, we could just trade him. It's a very tradable contract. And if we don't want to trade him, and let's say we do want to keep him, just take him out of the starting unit. Let's look what Gabe Vincent looks like. Or let's move Reeves to the point and start, Taurean Prince. Or let's go big and, have Reeves and, let's go Vando and LeBron. Let's just go completely positionless, right? Like there's so many different options because this Lakers team is so deep and so talented and all the pieces fit. Now, obviously they have to build the chemistry. They have to manage egos, right? There are a lot of questions still, right? Absolutely. I even have a little concerns of who's the guy that closes down the stretch? Because they still don't like Reeves and D'Lo and of course LeBron and AD. They can go get buckets, right? So can Rui. They have guys that can go get buckets, but there's a difference between a guy that can go get buckets and an actual closer that steps into that role, that's confident in that role, that can just, is able to knock it down. Reeves is probably my guess of who it is. But again, there are still question marks. This isn't the greatest team ever assembled, but it is very good, very deep, very versatile. And again, all the pieces fit. It's not, it's clunky in the sense of you got a lot of guys that play similar positions, but they're all positions of need and they can all play multiple positions, right? Taurean Prince, you could put at the 2. You put it at the 3, you could put it at the 4. Right? Again, you could go positionless with because of LeBron's versatility. Play AD at the 5, you play AD at the 4, you play, Wood at the 4, you play him at the 5. You could maybe even try him at the 3 because he's actually a pretty good perimeter defender. Austin Reeves could play the 1 or the 2. D'Lo could play the 1 or the 2. Gabe Vincent could play the 1 or the 2. Vando could play the 3 or the 4. You could go small ball. You could go big ball. You could go, big small ball, right? You don't have to worry about a lot of the things that we had to worry about last year. Again, there are levels to this. And the Lakers have unlocked that perfect level, in my opinion. That nice balance of players and pieces and complementary things that I really do think is going to be massive for them. I really do. I am super pumped for this Lakers roster. Look, I'm a diehard Laker fan. I like positivity. I like us to be positive here. I mean, if you've been, subscribed to this channel or, As It Stands Lakers or anything like that, any of my networks or anything like that, then like I always try to look at the glass half full rather than half empty. When we were 2-2, don't worry guys, we're going to figure it out, right? I was called all kinds of names, don't know basketball, I don't know this, and I was right a lot last year. But it wasn't to, oh yeah, like I know more. It was just remaining and staying positive and hyping up and supporting my team, right? So there is that level of that in this, right? Like I look at this roster and, because I'm a Laker fan, there obviously is going to be a level of bias. I try to be as, even keel as possible. But of course, sometimes my biases will leak through because, again, I am just a fan. But I really think this is one of those things that whether you're a fan or you hate the Lakers, there's no denying it. And I am, like, legitimately pumped. Like, last year I didn't say championship, but this year I do. Like, I genuinely believe the Lakers win the championship if they're healthy. I think that's the only thing standing in their way is health. If they're healthy, I don't think anybody beats this team in a 7-game series. Again, call me crazy, call me whatever you want. Time will tell. We'll see. One of us is going to be right. And I think a lot of that is just the versatility of this roster. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.